All right, welcome. Today we're diving into a real mind bender. It's a question that sounds like it belongs in a late-night dorm room debate, but it actually sits at the very edge of how we understand the cosmos. Let's get into it. So here's the big one, the core of our whole investigation today. Can something exist forever, stretching all the way back into an infinite past, but then just stop? Have a finite future? At first glance, you might think, sure, why not? But as you're about to see, when we put this idea under a logical microscope, some really serious problems start to pop up. So, you might be wondering, where does a question like this even come from? Is it just some philosopher's daydream? Well, not at all. This question actually emerges from the very real world of science, specifically from cosmology. That's right. Some serious scientific models have actually played around with the idea of a universe that had no beginning, one that has just always been here. But here's the catch. Those same models often predict a very definitive end, something called the heat death. It's a future where all the energy in the universe spreads out completely, all the stars burn out, and everything just stops. A cold, silent, unchanging forever. But hang on a minute. How can something that existed for an eternity suddenly be on the clock? That's the contradiction we're going to unpack today. So think of us as logical detectives. We're going to follow the evidence, piece by piece, and see if this whole idea can actually stand on its own 2 feet. Our very first clue, and it's a big one, comes down to the nature of existence itself. It's really a clash between 2 opposite ideas, being independent versus being dependent. Okay, let's really think about what no beginning means. If something has been around forever, its existence can't depend on anything, right? There was never a moment when the conditions had to be perfect for it to spring into being. It's uncaused. It just is. Its existence is totally independent. But now look at the flip side. If something has an end, that implies the exact opposite. It means it's vulnerable. Its existence depends on certain conditions. If you change those conditions, like if a star runs out of fuel or a building gets knocked down, it stops existing in that form. Its existence is fundamentally conditional. And boom. There's the problem, right? How can one single thing be both completely independent of any conditions, but at the same time completely dependent on conditions to keep going? It's a head-on collision. The 2 ideas are mutually exclusive. Here's a great way to think about how absurd this is. Imagine I gave you a magic lamp. It doesn't need batteries, it doesn't need to be plugged in, it just shines, no power needed. But then I tell you, oh, by the way, if you unplug it, it'll go out. You'd look at me like I was crazy, right? If it doesn't need power in the first place, why would unplugging it matter? It makes absolutely no sense. Okay, let's keep building our case. Let's look at this exact same paradox, but this time through the lens of one of the most fundamental rules of reality, cause and effect. So let's break this down. Something that's been around forever is, by definition, uncaused. Nothing brought it into existence. But an ending, well, an ending is an event. And events have causes. Something has to make it end. So you see, you can't have both. You can't have an object that is immune to being caused, but is also subject to being uncaused. This isn't just a weird concept that's hard to imagine. It's a genuine, logical contradiction, plain and simple. It's like asking me to draw you a square circle or show you a married bachelor. The very definitions make it an impossibility. So far, we've just been playing in the world of pure logic. But what happens when we take this idea out for a spin in the real world? What do the laws of physics have to say? Well, this next piece of evidence, this might just be the smoking gun. We need to talk about one of the most solid laws in all of physics. It sounds fancy, but you already know how it works. Think about your bedroom. Does it ever just magically clean itself up? No, of course not. Left to its own devices, it always gets messier. It moves toward disorder. Well, that tendency toward disorder is called entropy. And the entire universe plays by this same unbreakable rule. Okay, stay with me, because this is the clincher. Let's walk through the steps. 1, if the universe has existed forever, then 2, an infinite amount of time has already gone by. And we know that 3, disorder, or entropy, is always increasing. So, if you've had an infinite amount of time for things to get messy, the universe should have reached its messiest possible state an infinitely long time ago. It should already be at maximum disorder, that cold, quiet heat death. And yet, it's not. Just look around. We live in a universe that is buzzing with energy and structure. We have stars, we have galaxies, we have us, people capable of even thinking about this stuff. Our very existence is the proof that the universe hasn't run down yet, which means it can't have been running forever. So, we've examined the evidence from logic, from causality, and from the laws of physics themselves. What's the final verdict from our little investigation?
Well, the conclusion seems pretty inescapable. The idea of having an end simply cannot coexist with the idea of having no beginning. They are fundamentally contradictory properties. The logic forces us into a corner, and it leads to one place. If something can end, it absolutely must have had a beginning.
And really, this is so much more than just a clever bit of logic. It has profound, real-world implications for how we understand reality. It helps cosmologists figure out which models of the universe are even possible, and it forces all of us to think much more clearly about time, existence, and what it all means. So I'll leave you with one last thing to chew on. We're pretty confident that our universe is, in fact, heading towards an end, that eventual heat death. So if our whole investigation today holds true, if anything that has an end absolutely must have a beginning, what does that tell you about our own cosmos? That's a big one to think about. Thanks for watching.